Good evening. You're listening to the very first installment of Cue the Music. I'm James.
I'm Todd.
And I'm Brandon.
And we're going to go over everything music related in future episodes, like everything from pop to punk to metal to rock. Just going over album reviews, everything. Whatever tickles our pickle. So today's episode, we're going to go over our top 10 favorite metal/rock bands of all time and our favorite song by them.
Yes, indeedy.
Yeah, just to kind of give the audience a taste of our particular flavor of tea, our favorite bands, songs, what kind of music we like, we grew up listening to, just so you guys can get to know us a little bit.
Absolutely. I think this would be a fun episode.
Yeah.
Like he said, we're going to do our top 10 favorite bands and our favorite songs by that particular band. So this is kind of a get-to-know-you type of episode.
Now, as far as this goes, this is going to fall into the genres of hard rock and metal. So this list is going to be very specific to that. Just want to add that.
And while I think we're going to have some of the same bands, I do not think we will have some of the same songs from said band.
I don't think so neither.
Yeah, and I just want to point out that I think we're covering all genres of rock on this, right?
For the most part, mine kind of goes in a very specific route, but it's kind of how I was raised.
Yeah.
So my list of hard rock and metal is very influential of how I was raised, and how I was raised was pretty much like your slow, soft rock / metal.
That's what I was going to ask, because some of the bands, or maybe one or two, might not be what you would consider hard rock.
Right.
But
This list could go from Creed to Goatwhore.
Yeah.
On a scale.
I mean, I tell you what, I'll kick off the list with my number 10. It's actually Eric Clapton.
Okay. Now
Tears in Heaven.
Now I have
is my favorite
no
song
doubt
by him.
about my list, but yeah, that's
Like
great.
I love Cream, but as a kid I was introduced to Eric Clapton before Cream, so I discovered Cream second. But I heard Tears in Heaven first, and then that's just been my favorite song by him. Like, he's a phenomenal artist. Like just one of the greatest, like, up there with the greatest singers to me. Like, just a very captivating voice that you can't duplicate. And as far as guitar playing and, like, just being an overall musician is, like, he's almost a 10 out of 10. I mean, for me.
Yeah, Eric Clapton's great. It's hard to argue with that. My number 10 is Bob Seger.
Oh, I forgot to put Bob Seger on my list. Oh,
well,
God.
Bob Seger wasn't going to make my list, but Bob Seger was my dad's absolute favorite musician, and
yeah.
I can't make a list without him. And Against the Wind is my favorite Bob Seger song. So I kind of almost choke up every time I hear it on the radio, because it makes me think of my dad.
You know what kills me about that is, like, out of all the vinyl that I have, the most vinyl I have by an artist is by Bob Seger, and I didn't put that motherfucker on my list. I might call an audible here, people.
Yeah, well,
he'll be your honorable mention. How about that?
No, fuck that. He's got to make the list now.
Well, speaking of honorable mention, I switched out my number 10 spot. Originally, I had Killswitch Engage. Huge Killswitch Engage fan.
Almost made my list.
And my favorite song by them is When Darkness Falls, because that's the very first song that introduced me to that band. But I had to switch it out for a guy that I absolutely love, and I can't deny it. I'd be lying to myself. And that is Phil Collins.
Okay.
And
nice.
My favorite song by him, he's got a bunch of sing-along songs, but Did I Miss Again is probably my favorite.
That's a great song.
That's an amazing song. Kicking in my number 9 spot, I'm going to bump one off. I don't give a fuck. I'm calling the audible. It's going to be Bob Seger. I don't care. I make the rules here. Fuck you if you don't like it. Now, as far as my favorite Bob Seger, it's probably going to be Night Moves. It's like throw a fucking dart at his discography and you'll hit a fucking classic.
Absolutely.
You can go from like Against the Wind, Old Time Rock and Roll, Turn the Page, Hollywood Nights.
Can you name a bad Bob Seger song? That's the
It
challenge.
doesn't fucking exist.
It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist, and fuck me for not putting him on my list. But he's on my list now, so eat shit, Sherlock.
Well, number 9 on my list will be kicking off my thrash metal portion of the list is Testament.
Nice.
One of my all-time favorite bands.
Practice What You Preach.
Practice What You Preach.
Yeah, I knew it. That's my favorite by them. It's not on my list, but it's my favorite.
Love the song, love the album. The bass line in that song is fantastic. But yeah, since the first time I've heard it, it's always been my favorite Testament song, and always will be.
Nice.
All right, Todd.
My number 9, we're going from a little pop to some old school metal. My number 9 is Judas Priest, Screaming for Vengeance. Again, I'm a huge Judas Priest fan, and just like you said with Bob Seger, you can throw a dart at, their discography and just land on something, and you're like, oh yeah, I love that. But Screaming for Vengeance is like when I put together like a Judas Priest playlist, I always kick it off with that one because it kind of sets the mood for what's to come.
Man, if I had to go, I've always been like I love their heavy stuff. Like The Ripper is like one of my favorite songs, but like Living After Midnight is like always my first go-to. Like when I want to hear Priest, I want to hear Living After Midnight.
Yeah, it's a great sing-along.
Rockin'. Yeah.
And, makes you want to get in your car and drive really fast.
Thinking about Priest is the first song that always comes to mind to me is Painkiller, because the drums, the twin guitar in that song.
I said The Ripper. I meant Painkiller.
It's just killer.
Yeah. Let's see. My next one's going to be Heaven and Hell.
Okay.
Follow the Tears. You probably haven't heard this song.
I have not.
It's when Black Sabbath was in a lawsuit with Sharon. They had to change the name from Black Sabbath, and they changed it to Heaven and Hell.
Okay, I've heard the song. I didn't know who it was by.
Yeah.
This is the Black Sabbath Dio-led version.
Yes, but they changed it to Heaven and Hell, and Follow the Tears is it's like one of the heaviest songs I think they ever wrote, honestly. And it's just one of those like fucking bangers that just fucking stuck with me.
Nice.
All right, my number 8 is Stone Temple Pilots. Now I'm gonna throw a monkey wrench in. It's the song is Wicked Garden.
Oh, okay.
But it's the unplugged version from New York.
I forget they do an unplugged version.
I think the unplugged version of that song is way better and has a lot more emotion than the studio version.
I get that.
Yeah.
Getting back to your Eric Clapton, I'd probably say my favorite is Wonderful Tonight, but his live rendition of it, because it's a little bit slower and it has that guitar solo in it. So I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah.
And to piggyback off what Brandon said real quick, my favorite STP song is actually the first one off of Core is Dead and Bloated.
That's a great
when
song.
That snare hits boom boom I fucking love it. It sets the tempo for the rest of the album too.
I actually mentioned that song to Terry one time to use as his entrance theme.
That would be a fucking great intro song.
Yeah, I dig STP as well. My number 8 spot belongs to Metallica.
Metallica. When you're going to talk about the most influential bands of all time,
you have to talk about Metallica.
Todd, do you have metal up your ass?
That's many things in Todd's ass, but not metal.
No, fucker. Anyway, I assume most people would think that I pick a old school song.
Mine's not.
My favorite Metallica song is "Bleeding Me."
On an album that gets a lot of shit from critics and from a lot of Metallica fans, I love that album from beginning to end, and Bleeding Me is the masterpiece of that album.
Yeah, I believe so.
Load?
It's off of
Yeah,
Load.
Load. That's what I thought.
Yeah, Load is kind of the it's kind of the Friday the 13th Jason Takes Manhattan thing, where a lot of people just poo-poo on it all the fucking
I like
time.
Reload personally better. But,
Now,
I mean,
Bleeding Me is like an 8.5-minute song that feels like a 4.5-minute song. It doesn't feel like it's that long of a song. And
Yeah.
it blows every song on that album out of the water.
yeah. I agree. I'll talk about Metallica here in a little bit. My number, what are we on, number
7.
8? 7. Number 7 is Fleetwood Mac, Landslide. And the reason for this is because when I was a kid, my mom gave me Fleetwood Mac Greatest Hits cassette, the one that was like green and had the white flower on the front of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was her favorite song. And it's still one of those songs that I think about my mom every time. She's
And-
not dead, but I still think about her.
And that is one of the most covered songs in the history of music.
Yeah, even
So many
Smashing
bands.
Pumpkins covered that.
Smashing Pumpkins, Dixie Chicks, a lot of groups, a lot of
They're
bands that
just
covered
the
that.
chicks now.
Oh, chicks with dicks.
They took the dicks out of the chicks. Now they're just the chicks. They took the dicks out of the chicks. That's fucking comedy gold. I don't care what you say. Woo!
That was a goodie.
My number 7, I'm not sure if you guys are a huge fan of this band, but my number 7 is Dream Theater,
Oh yeah, I love Dream Theater.
and the song is Panic Attack.
Oh, that's an amazing song.
One of the best opening bass lines of any song I've ever heard. John Young, the bass player for Dream Theater, absolutely shreds it in this song. John Petrucci picks up with an awesome solo, and actually, it probably should have been one of their hit songs if they ever released it as a real radio single, but they never did off that album. But yeah, my absolute favorite Dream Theater song from one of my favorite bands.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, my number 7 is Black Label Society.
They almost made my list. It was
And
very hard for me not to put them on there.
my favorite track from them, I've got them tattooed on me, so I pretty much like everything, but my absolute favorite song is Destruction Overdrive. It's from the Blessed Hell Ride album.
Yeah.
And, again, I can do a roulette and whatever it lands on, I'd be satisfied with, pretty much all these bands, but I'm going to have to go with that one. Now, that one kind of hits me a little bit harder.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely understand that. It was very hard for me not to put them on there. I almost went with like Stillborn or Doomsday Jesus, which is also off the same album.
Yeah. Great tunes.
Yes. Oh my God, such an amazing album. But you are 100% right. You can't go wrong with any BLS or Pride and Glory or the Book of Shadows or anything by them. My number 6 is going to be Leonard Skinner and Mississippi Kid. This is off their first album. It's not a song that's very popular, but it's one of those songs that, like, once again, like, it was a cassette that was given to me as a kid, and it was just one of those songs that stuck out, and it just sounded completely different.
Yeah.
And the storytelling in it, and of course, just the whole album, beginning to end, even though Sweet Home Alabama, if I never hear that fucking song again, it'd be too fucking soon.
Yeah. I'm with you. Skinner's one of my favorite bands, but I'm with you on Sweet Home Alabama. And, I almost thought about putting them on my list just because, when I first got into music and I found my dad's tape collection,
Yeah.
it was a lot of Skinner, so I was exposed to a lot of that.
Yeah, a lot of Skinner, a lot of Alabama.
And, I think if I had to pick my favorite Skinner song, it's Cry for the Bad Man.
Oh, such a great one. Also, Give Me Back My Bullets.
Yeah, there's a, needle in the spoon. It's a lot of
Yeah.
hard-hitting stuff that Skinner puts out, but unfortunately, radio only knows about 2 songs, and they play them over and over and over, and they get exposed so much to,
I mean,
That-
Freebird's overexposed, but I don't mind Freebird
yeah,
because it is a very beautiful song. It's like,
yeah, it's just like when you think of Sweet Home Alabama, it's just a bunch of casual fucking dumb fuck blondes that don't have a fucking clue about what music is. They just shake their fucking ass at an outdoor festival.
yeah, they don't even
That's
know
it.
the fucking story behind it
No,
and
they-
like the political aspect of the song that it was made for. No, where they're shaking their asses and they should be wearing fucking a fucking hairnet on their fucking crotch because their shorts are so short, and then where it's on a fucking KFC commercial. Fuck that song. Love the band. Fuck that song.
Yeah, but God bless them for making money off of it.
And goddamn that song. What's your number 6, Brandon?
My number 6 is Iron Maiden,
Okay.
The Trooper.
Great song. That is also my favorite Iron Maiden song.
Yeah, that's my favorite Iron Maiden song too.
I mean, I could have just said all of Iron Maiden's songs are my favorite song, but
Yeah.
if I had to pick one, it would be The Trooper.
Yeah,
That bass line in that song is fucking
Yeah, that-
amazing.
Steve Harris. Have you noticed a theme in kind of in my list? A lot of bass lines.
Oh yeah,
I
there's
mean,
nothing wrong with that.
I mean, I'm a guitar guy first, but Steve Harris just kills it in that song, man.
Oh, absolutely.
And just thinking about Eddie, about the logo, about the mascot of the band. The Trooper. You always see him where he's hunched over. He's got the British flag. And you got the dead soldiers behind him. Everybody's seen the shirt and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, most of the band, if you actually ask them what their favorite song is, most of them will actually say that one is one of their favorites to perform live.
That's awesome because I never want to stop hearing that song from them. So
yeah. My number 6 is a little band called Pantera.
Who?
Yeah. I don't know.
the restaurant,
Yeah.
they have good bread.
Pantera bread? Yeah.
Yeah.
Pantera,
Bread bowls.
fucking home style.
Yeah. And my favorite Pantera song is Revolution Is My Name.
Yeah, that they're on my list too. Not quite there yet, but yeah, that's my all-time favorite heavy metal band.
And again,
Spoilers.
And again, you can throw a dart at any song by them and it's going to hit you right in the fucking face. My Demons Be Driven.
Yeah,
I mean, I could, This Love, Walk, of course, is probably one of their most famous ones.
Shedding Skin.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, the band kind of created their own kind of genre, to be honest with you, kind of like that groove metal. They took elements of thrash and they mixed it in with melody and stuff that not only you could bang your head to and rip shit up with, but sing-along shit, very catchy stuff. And that's, you got to give it up to Dimebag for those grooves, man.
And to think they
Yeah.
started out as a glam band.
Yeah, they started out as a glam band, and if you are, if you ever listen to their early stuff, it's not too bad, but
It had more of a power metal feel to
yeah,
it.
it was more of a power metal, but you could tell that they were more comfortable kind of, shedding the makeup and the big hair for fucking, army shorts and fucking tees.
The talent was always there with them, but, when Phil joined the band, it was like a complete flip of the switch.
Oh, yeah. And you can hear Phil's voice on that first album. He was much more of a he had that that high pitch type of sound. Of course, later on he changed it up to more of a screaming sound, mixing with the singing. But yeah, man, he could hit those high notes better than anybody in hair metal if he wanted to.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll elaborate on that in a little bit. But jumping in headfirst into my number 5 is going to be talking about Metallica.
Metallica,
of course. Mine's actually later. Also, Sad But True. That's my favorite song by them. It's
nice.
Off my favorite album by them. The Black Album's my favorite album by them. I know it's a very unpopular opinion, but I don't care.
Actually, that's the most popular opinion. That's
That's
their most successful album commercially. So,
it's a reason. It's a banger after banger after banger. But And Justice for All is definitely my. It's like neck and neck with the Black Album.
Todd, what's your favorite Metallica album?
From top to bottom, my favorite Metallica album is Master of Puppets. That's kind of typical, especially from the old school Metallica fans. But like you said, the way you just like rattled off hit after hit, banger after banger on the Black Album, that's the way I feel about the older discography. If I had to pick that one album with a banger after banger after banger, it'd be Master of Puppets.
I mean, Master of Puppets is definitely top to bottom, like,
Yeah.
no skips.
Besides Bleeding Me that I mentioned earlier, one of my favorite is Welcome Home, Sanitarium.
Sanitarium.
Yeah. That song right there just, it has it's a banger, but at the same time, the beginning of it always kind of disturbs me because I think of, it actually makes me think of like somebody in a straitjacket in a fucking, like one of those home things when they're just trying to get out. I mean, it's like insanity in the mind.
Yeah.
That's what I think of.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But
what about you?
Ride the Lightning is my favorite Metallica album. I love the raw sound of it. It still has sounds of Kill 'Em All, but you can tell that they're kind of leaning into more of a production like they got in Master of Puppets.
Yeah.
But I feel like as far as the guitar work that their best album ever was Ride the Lightning.
That has For Whom the Bell Tolls on it,
yes.
Right? All right, yeah. That's what I thought. Which, that's up there in my... I could do a top 5 or top 10, Metallica songs.
And I'm sure we will on a later episode.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But my number 5 is Pantera.
Wow.
And Todd, you mentioned my favorite Pantera song. It's By Demons Be Driven.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
the fucking the chugs in that song.
Now, I think all of us have a different favorite Pantera album.
I don't know.
I mean, mine's Vulgar Display of Power.
No, that's not mine.
This song comes from that album, but yeah, just one of those just banger songs that you could just play over and over and over and over again.
Definitely.
Even though I don't go to the gym, it's a perfect, go to the gym and workout song.
Vulgar Display of Power was my favorite Pantera album until I heard Far Beyond Driven. And then when I heard Far Beyond Driven became my favorite Pantera album.
Yeah, that's my number 2.
Yeah, I second that. I favor Far Beyond Driven just a little bit more. I think most people would probably pick Vulgar. It had a lot of bangers on it, but
yeah, but so did Far Beyond Driven.
Yeah, like a cunt hair between them.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that one's better than the other. They're both amazing in my book, but I prefer the heaviness. Like I feel like Far is a little bit more heavier than. I mean, yeah, Far Beyond Driven's a little bit more heavier than Vulgar.
Okay.
Just a little bit.
I agree with that because if you look at songs like Hollow, Hollow seems more kind of like the ballady type of song.
Even though they covered Planet Carvin on
Right.
Far Beyond Driven. But yeah. So what's your number 5, fucker?
My number 5 is Alice in Chains.
Dirt album?
As far as my favorite album,
No, I mean, is it off of Dirt?
I believe it is. It's a song called "Rain When I Die." I can't remember if it's off of Dirt or if it's off of
Facelift?
Facelift. Yeah, I believe it's Facelift.
I think it is Facelift.
It's one of the two. I know those albums are kind of back to back. But "Rain When I Die" is my favorite Alice in Chains song.
And you know what kills me is I wanted to put Alice in Chains on my list so bad, but I couldn't justify putting them on when I took them off to put Iron Maiden on because Iron Maiden has a longer discography and I couldn't justify keeping them off.
I get that.
I was right. It's Dirt.
It's Dirt.
It's Dirt.
Sweet. Yeah. "Rain When I Die," one of those deep discography cuts, not necessarily a single. But, I think definitely if you listen to that whole album,
No skips.
yeah, "Bleed the Freak" was a close second. So
Yeah. Oh, well, my number 4 is Mr. Ozzy Osbourne with No More Tears.
it's a good one.
The bass line at the beginning of that song. Now, I actually, I know a lot of people like Randy and Ozzy, but No More Tears is actually my favorite Ozzy album with Zach.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I like Ozzy and Zach just as much as I like Randy and Zach, if not maybe a little bit more. I like the heaviness that Zach brought to the table.
It's funny you bring that up. No More Tears, from top to bottom, used to be my favorite.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. But to be honest with you, if I didn't say this, I wouldn't be honest with myself. But my favorite Ozzy album is The Ultimate Sin.
Ultimate Sin. That's a great album.
Which is the album that everybody hates, including Ozzy himself.
Yeah, he fucking despises that album.
Zach's on that album as well.
Yeah.
I guess they don't like it because it leans a little bit more towards that poppy hair metal sound. But the songwriting is still superb and the guitar work is still there. Honestly, if it was me and somebody said it was hair metal, I'd say, well, yeah, it's the best goddamn hair metal album ever. That's the way I would look at it, but, whatever.
Yeah. My number... what's your number 4, Brandon?
Metallica.
Metallica.
And my favorite Metallica song, well, we're going to go deep cut. It's Trapped Under Ice.
Ooh, that's awesome.
Favorite song, favorite album, and I don't think you'll find a lot of people that will put that as their favorite Metallica song, especially from that album with Fade to Black, Fight Fire with Fire, For Whom the Bell Tolls,
Yeah.
Creeping Death. Just a lot of great songs on that album, and Trapped Under Ice is one of those that just gets kind of pushed under the rug a little bit. But I think
I love that song, Trapped Under Ice.
easily one of Kirk Hammett's best solos, like ever. It's one of the ones where he doesn't use a wah pedal.
I'd have to think on that one. I mean, it's definitely up there.
My number 4 was a guy I mentioned earlier, and it's Bob Seger. and there was two songs I was thinking about. I almost went with the song "Beautiful Loser" because that's a great song, but I actually went with a song called "Shame of the Moon."
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, which is a little bit later. I think it was like '82 or something when the
Yeah.
album came out. A little bit later on in his discography, but I just like the flow of that song, and I like the lyrics to it. I mean,
Once again, you can't go wrong with Bob Seger.
yeah,
Like,
I would listen to Bob Seger sing the phone book.
yeah.
So,
yes. There's nothing that man can do wrong. It's not his fault he was born in Detroit. He can't change that.
Yeah, he definitely has the soul of Detroit.
Yeah.
Bob Seger is like the white Motown that, oddly enough, comes out of...
Is it safe to say that Bob Seger is the white man's version of Barry White?
I don't know. I think he's better than Barry White.
No. I'm not comparing. I'm just saying, a lot of people that are African American, they say, one of the most soulful voices is Barry White. That's like the number one go-to is Bob Seger, the cracker version of Barry White.
That might be true because if you go on YouTube and you watch a lot of these reaction videos and you see these, mostly black people that are reacting to the Bob Seger because they haven't heard it before, they're thoroughly impressed that he has such a soulful voice. They don't
Right.
expect it to come out of him.
Well, I can tell you from this generation, most of the React videos that you'll see on YouTube, people are blown away by Chris Stapleton.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He might be the quote unquote Barry White of this generation with his soulful voice. Because I mean, he might be a country guy, but he's a blues singer.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't consider him country. He's too good to be country.
Yeah, well, he definitely blows everybody out of the water that's currently a quote-unquote country music act.
Yeah, to say he's country and also to say someone like Luke Bryan is country, I mean, that's like apples and oranges.
Well,
Definitely.
honestly, if you want real country, you're gonna have to dig for it. Like your Cody Jinks, your Waylon Morgan, your Coulter Wall, those type of like true blue country artists, you got to dig for.
Oh, definitely. It's kind of like, popular radio. It used to be pretty good stuff gets played on there.
Yeah.
Now it's like, I don't know. It all sounds the same, and if it sounds the same, it gets played, and if it's slightly different, it tends to, I don't know if it depends on the area you live in. I don't know if what the deal is. I don't
Yeah.
know if music television just isn't popular like it used to be, where these bands and artists seemed bigger back in the day. Maybe that's because YouTube and streaming services, music services or whatever has become bigger or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, man. It seems like the industry leeches onto one sound and they sign 20 other acts that sound the exact same.
Or make 20 other acts sound
And
like that.
I don't know if I need to blame the business for doing it, for making money, or should I blame
The
these
artist for selling out.
the artists for selling out, or people out here that have shit for brains that follow a trend, and a week later it's another new artist, and the week after that it's another artist. It's always like, it always made me like crazy to know that, like in hip hop music, like once a song gets like 2 weeks old, they're like, I don't listen to that old shit. It's always what's now, and I've never been that way. I still listen to rap songs that are fucking 30 years old.
That's because rap is dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I think it's probably worse or just about the same as country. You know, as far as I think it has the same trend as far as like if you turn on country radio, you'll hear 20 songs that sound the same. If you turn on hip hop radio, it's the same thing. You'll hear 20
mumble.
songs that's just the same.
well, like when me and Brandon was talking earlier, I think my new favorite saying is low class music for low IQ'd people.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, that's how I feel. Like, if you're stupid enough to think that this is good and you support it, then I'm sorry. Your IQ is as low as your pants are hanging.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this saying before. You know, there's two kinds of people in the world. There's bees and flies. Bees are attracted to honey, flies are attracted to shit, and there's way more flies in the world than bees.
And you know, one thing I've always said is, if I could consider myself a snob about anything, it's music.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, normally, you know, if it just catches my ear, I'm okay with it. But I never thought I'd get to the point where every single song that I hear on a popular radio, I fucking despise.
Yeah, and unfortunately, and this is coming from us, and we're like open-minded about everything. I mean, we listen to Genesis, to Whitney Houston, to fucking Cannibal Corpse, to fucking Trace Atkins.
Right.
Like we listen to everything, but this modern music is dog shit.
I think about the episode of South Park where they all get the CD and they put it on, and
oh god, yeah.
but all they hear is shit.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then they play it, and it's literally shit.
Yeah.
You know, and Randy hears shit, but he wants to be hip and cool, and he's like, "Oh no, I like it. It's pretty good," even though the shit's so loud, his headphones is flying off his head.
Yeah, it's fucking terrible.
I think it's also we live in a culture now where being an individual, while people want to say that it's praised, more people want to just fall in line and be like everybody else.
Right.
For fear of ridicule. And, you know, music is just one of those things where you just have to find your own sound that you like and stick with it, and you don't care what anybody else says. Even if what you listen to is 40 years old. You know, like my kids pick on me all the time. They say I listen to old guy music. I don't really care what they say.
Right.
You know, my daughter listens to some of the stuff I listen to, and she likes it. You know, my son couldn't care less. All he listens to is rap. So, but you know, everybody has their own thing, and everyone's entitled to their own opinion. You know, as far as music goes,
Right.
Opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one, but you know, some people's asshole stinks worse than others.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's kind of a shame because even if you give your opinion and you don't like something, you're labeled a hater. That's the popular word to be labeled these days.
Yeah.
Oh, you're just a hater. You're just a hater. I'd rather be a hater than just a blind follower. So,
Right.
Yeah, for real. But jumping back into the list, my number three is Pantera.
Who?
Pinterest. My favorite song by them is also off of the same album. This is my favorite by them, Far Beyond Driven. It's 5 Minutes Alone, which is very hard because I wanted to pick like Becoming, but it's so hard for me to pick my favorite Pantera song. But it's the one song I remember hearing after. So like RVD came out to Walk, but it was covered by Kilgore.
Right.
Then I found out who the actual artist is, Pantera, and then I heard what was the first album I heard by them? Vulgar, not Vulgar. It was Vulgar.
Vulgar Display?
Yeah, Vulgar Display. And then I heard
Far Beyond Driven?
Far Beyond Driven, and then I fell in love with Far Beyond Driven.
Right.
But, it's just one of those things that just kind of like, oh, they're heavy. Oh, they're heavy. Oh, they're heavier. Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
They just got heavier.
Yeah, that's kind of how I was as well. I probably listened to Vulgar first because that's, their most popular songs were on that album. So, it's like somebody getting into Metallica and they listen to the Black Album just because they recognize more titles off of that album.
Right.
That's kind of how I was with, Vulgar Display because it did have Walk and stuff like that on it.
Yeah,
So that
exactly.
was probably my first exposure to Pantera.
New levels on Vulgar, right? New level of confidence.
That's
Yeah.
a good one too.
That's my favorite song off of that album, actually. What's your number 4, Brandon?
Well,
3.
3.
well, actually, I was going to point something out. I was looking
Okay,
it
go
up.
ahead.
So, you said 5 minutes alone, and you talking about Becoming. So, wouldn't it be funny if they were actually because they are back to back on the album? But
Yeah.
what if Becoming was right after 5 minutes alone? Think about it. You would be coming after 5 minutes alone, like Todd.
It don't take 5 minutes.
Todd knows himself better than any whore could. It only takes me 25 seconds.
2, and that's with cleanup.
1, 2, 3.
How many strokes does it get to them?
Until you get to the center.
I'm going to go ahead
God.
with my number 3.
All right.
It's a band you already mentioned, James. Fleetwood Mac.
Beautiful.
Just they're so good. I think all of us have a crush on old ass Stevie Nicks,
Fuck yeah, I get to see her this year.
but my favorite member of the band is actually Lindsey Buckingham, who I think is the most criminally underrated musician ever.
Oh yeah.
Ever. Think about how he plays the guitar, and he does it with no pick. It's all finger picking.
I didn't know that.
He does not use a pick.
Wow.
But my favorite song by Fleetwood Mac is the live version of I'm So Afraid from the dance tour.
That is
His guitar solo in that song is probably my favorite or second favorite guitar solo of all time. So much emotion into it. I mean, even the way that Lindsey sings the song, it's just beautiful. And it's so much better than the studio version. So much better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I heard that song and it shot right to the top of my Fleetwood Mac list. It's fantastic. I recommend anybody, please give that a listen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. I dig some Fleetwood Mac, although they're not on my list. I love them just as much as
Bastard.
you guys. Well,
I know how it is.
My number 3 is a little band called Black Sabbath.
Number 3?
Number 3.
Wow.
Number 3.
Blasphemy.
And it wasn't hard to put them on the list. Choosing a song was fucking difficult.
Tell me about it.
Because, god damn. Of course, for Sabbath, I think all the, most of the hits come off of Paranoid, which was their big breakthrough album.
Most of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ones that are played on the radio.
War Pigs, Paranoid, Iron Man is basically what you hear. But my favorite Black Sabbath song is Sweet Leaf. Yeah. That's my favorite song, and every fucking cover I've ever heard of that song has been goddamn awful. I just want to put that out there.
It's not very many people that can cover Black Sabbath and make it good.
Yeah, I think, Pantera did a good job with
Planet
Carvin.
Yeah.
But other than that, I haven't really heard a Sabbath cover that I was gung-ho about. And but I have heard attempts.
Can I give you a recommendation?
Sure.
Children of the Grave. Great song by them, but Racer X, Paul Gilbert's band, does a fantastic cover of Children of the Grave.
I like them. They shred on guitar, man. So I'd probably like that, but you know.
My favorite cover is by Pantera, Planet Carvin. I think they nailed it.
Yeah, and it's so crazy that a heavy band like Pantera picked the softest Black Sabbath song to cover.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like, it's almost like a whisper, or, you know, like kind of like Phil has that, like in the background type of,
Let me ask you another question. So I think one of their creepiest songs is actually the song Black Sabbath. Ozzy's voice. Like, that song is so creepy to me.
What is this that stands before me?
So, can you think of a band, like a modern band that could cover that song and kind of give it the right feel, the right sound?
I mean, I'd have to think about it, but off the top of my head, not really. I mean, you know, I could tell you a band that I don't like that people would suggest.
Yeah, I already know what you're going to say, too. And the fact you even thought of it, and I know what you're thinking, I fucking hate it.
But you know,
fuck Ghost.
You know,
fuck Ghost. Fuck Ghost.
So, what do you think about someone like Howard from Killswitch? Do you think he could pull that off with the range of his voice?
I mean, they did cover
Holy Diver.
Holy Diver.
Yeah. But
they twisted it.
They twisted it a little bit.
They modernized it. They modernized it.
Which I like it.
Yeah.
I think it's just as good.
The thing about it is Ozzy has such a fucking unique voice. You know, in my opinion, you know, Ozzy has a unique voice. Zakk Wylde has a unique voice. Axl Rose falls into that category. It would probably sound good, but just because I'm used to hearing Ozzy sing it, I don't know how I would react. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm trying to rack my brain. I mean, Black Label Society is not a new band, but I mean, of course, I can see.
You could get the king of all cover bands to cover it. James.
Fuck him. I hope his dick turns black and falls off in a crapper. Ivan Moody. Yeah. Moody is, I don't know whoever gave him his last name, but God bless you, because that fucking fits him to a T.
Yeah.
And he should never change it.
I hate Five-Finger Dick Stroke.
Yeah. I don't hate him as much as probably you guys, but
I thought he was better in Motograder.
I mean, okay. I mean,
You're indifferent to it.
I'm indifferent to it. If Five Finger is playing dependent on the song, I might listen to it, I might not.
Their albums age like milk.
If you're going to listen to Five Finger, you probably want to just go with the greatest hits.
No, because I don't want to hear a fucking cover album. The songs I like by them are not covers.
Well.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's your number 2, James?
Dio. Dio. The only man that could lace up Ozzy Osbourne's boots. Lock Up the Wolves, actually, is my favorite Dio song.
It's a good one.
I'm a fan of the heavier chug metal / rock music, and of course, you know, the first album I heard by Dio was Holy Diver, and then, you know, I started digging deeper and deeper, and then I got to the album Lock Up the Wolves. Such a fucking amazing album. and
It's more bluesy and sludgy than
Yeah.
the rest of his albums.
yeah, it's definitely one of his heaviest albums. And that song, the chugs, the rhythm in his voice, the notes, the lyrics, just it's doomy, it's dark, it's heavy, but his vocals is also light and crisp. I mean, it's just fucking beautiful.
Yeah, that's
Dio's at his best.
Dio is always at his best. He's
Yeah.
never at his worst.
Still a better singer, and he's dead. That's Dio, Ivan.
Exactly. My number 2, Todd, speaking of unique voices, is Rush.
number 2.
Number 2.
The fuck?
Yeah. So,
Ladies and gentlemen, which you don't know, but we know, this is his favorite band.
I thought it was.
well, okay. So, I was actually talking with. I thought you were in on this conversation, Todd, when we were up at Grizzlies.
Okay,
Okay.
I know
So,
what your number 1 is
okay,
now.
so I put Rush at number 2 because if I were to think of it as a total discography from beginning to end, there's another band that I can say I love more than Rush simply because there are Rush songs that I don't like. There's a Rush album that I don't like. I refuse to even listen to it. I will not listen to Roll the Bones. It is terrible. Geddy Lee tries to rap. The whole album is dog shit. Geddy got in love with synthesizers, and while some of their synthesizer stuff is good, that is not. That album sucks. But my favorite Rush song is Subdivisions. And the reason why, and yes, it is kind of a synthesizer song, but it's my favorite song because of the lyrics. The song is about a kid in school. He's unpopular. He doesn't have any friends. He's kind of an outcast, and all the popular kids, they always walk past him. They ignore him. They go to parties. He doesn't get invited. And he lives in this cookie cutter neighborhood, and every single day of his life is the same. And when I was in high school, while I did have a very small group of friends, I wouldn't be considered popular, okay? And I didn't start gaining a lot of friends in high school until I was in a really bad car wreck. So this song kind of hits home to me because of how I felt in high school, that I was an outcast. I wasn't a popular kid. I kind of hung around with other outcasts. So lyrically, this song kind of hits home to me, and I love it.
See, I love that because sometimes a song might not be that great like when you're listening to it, but the lyrics hit you hard enough to where it becomes one of your favorite songs, and then over time the music does hit you after the lyrics hit you. And that's the great thing about music, any genre of music. It's not rock, rap, reggae, fucking folk. It doesn't matter. Sometimes it's the lyrical content of a song that captivates you more so than the music. Sometimes it's the music, vice versa.
Yeah.
And then when you have both of them together, you've got a match made in heaven.
Yeah, think about it. You know, you could be an atheist or an agnostic, and you can hear a Christian song or a gospel song, and something about the lyrics just hit you. You relate to it, even though you're not a religious person. You know, maybe something happened in your life that you can kind of relate to the songs
Yeah.
that maybe doesn't have something to do necessarily with God, but you can still relate to it, even though you might not believe.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I can identify with that because I like Elvis, and a lot of my favorite Elvis songs is gospel stuff. So, you know, I mean, I'm not religious by any means. I just likes the way he does it. So,
Yeah, same here. I know y'all aren't too big on Skillet, but I personally like Skillet, and they've got some songs that really hit home to me, and they're a Christian band.
I mean, you know, there's a lot of bands that might have religious type of songs or ideologies.
Right.
Creed's a good example. Who they're not necessarily a. Well, what's so goddamn funny?
You know what's funny about
No,
Creed?
what is funny about Creed?
You know what exactly is funny
What's
about
funny?
Creed? Because,
Nickelback fan?
I am a Nickelback fan.
Well,
Unapologetic.
fuck you! Ha 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 ha!
What the fuck are you talking about? I'm a Creed fan too, you fucking dumbfounded dipshit.
Well, you
I hope you stub your toe on a
fuck
fucking
you.
truck post.
you fucked up
You-
my line of thought with your fucking ha ha ha, and it was unnecessary.
It was not unnecessary.
It was.
Because everybody relates fucking Creed to fucking Jesus loving blah
That's
blah
what
blah.
I was gonna say.
And then the fucking last song on the fucking first album, the only fucking curse words on the album is goddamn. Goddamn. Goddamn you.
He ain't here anymore.
And go stick your pot in a dick in a human clay.
You've created your own prison.
I think you're just torn. We better not do fucking Creed puns.
I pity the both of you.
Oh, God.
I think you need to sell your pity for a dime.
Yeah.
Don't you fucking shoot your bullets at me.
Motherfucker, you better be ready.
This is getting weathered.
You keep on, make a goddamn sacrifice.
Hey, my arms are wide open.
Bitch, you ain't gonna get higher than me.
Oh my god, this just went off the rails on a crazy fucking train.
Woo! Oh
What's
my
your number
God.
2, Todd?
Woo!
Oh,
My number 2
Jesus.
is Led Zeppelin.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
And my favorite, there's a lot of songs that I love by Led Zeppelin, but I like the more bluesier stuff by Zeppelin, and I chose Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
My favorite Zeppelin song is actually Black Dog.
Okay, yeah. That's a goodie.
Like I said, more of the heavier rhythms is what I'm very fond to. But that's probably my favorite album by Led Zeppelin was it Zeppelin 2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe that the first 4 Led Zeppelin albums
Yeah.
are like pure masterpieces.
Yeah.
I love the,
I've got all of them on vinyl except
Yeah.
for 4.
yeah.
So, you would never ever guess in a million years what my favorite Led Zeppelin song is. It's on the album In Through the Outdoor. My favorite Led Zeppelin song is Fool in the Rain.
Ooh, that's a goodie.
It's one of those songs that's like, you hear it on the radio, but it's every now and then, but it's not one of those, Stairway to Heaven, Black Dog, Heartbreaker,
Yeah,
Cashmere. It doesn't get the airplay that one does, but I think that John Bonham's drumming on that song is just otherworldly. It's so good.
Yeah. Led Zeppelin's one of those artists where you just throw a dart and hit, and it's pretty much guaranteed gold. Yeah.
Definitely.
Well,
And I want to say, I thought of a band that I did not put on my list, and I doubt it's your number one or your number one, Brandon. But I want to give them a shout out just because I like all their shit, but their discography is just so short.
Hanson?
Exactly.
knew it.
Yeah. No, I want
It's
to give
Nelly.
a shout out. I want to give a shout out to CCR.
I actually knew that was coming. I knew it was going to be CCR.
Yeah.
I
I just
struggled.
wanted to mention them because they deserve a mention. But again, short discography, but almost everything that they come out with was fucking gold to my ears. Again,
Yeah.
when we talk about those unique voices, you can't leave out John Fogerty.
No,
No.
absolutely not. And to think that all of that great music came out in
Such
a
a
span
short
of like
time.
maybe 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
I mean, they just song after song after song, they just
Yeah.
pumped them out.
And not only did they influence other rock bands, but a lot of country bands like Alabama and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Alabama actually covered Green River. So,
Yeah. Did Roland, Tina Turner, right? Or did she do that first?
if I don't know.
It's a trivia question
No,
for you.
I thought CCR did that first.
That's what I thought,
Fo-
too.
I thought well, didn't Fogerty do that
Proud
song?
Mary. Proud Mary.
Didn't Fogerty do that song though after he left, and there was a lawsuit kind of because the rest of the band said that it sounded too much like CCR.
I don't know.
I thought there was some kind of lawsuit saying that.
I might have to look that one up for next time. But yeah, that's not mine.
Number one. Let's hear it, James.
I feel stupid because Todd's just mentioned something and made me think of an artist that I didn't put on here. So I'm going to throw in an honorable mention. Queen. Queen I didn't put on my list, and I feel fucking stupid because, oh, God, so many good songs by them. Probably Bohemian Rhapsody. I mean, being one of them.
That's a goodie.
Killer Queen. I mean, Tie Her Up. Keep going on.
I personally like. I hope this is the title of it. I Want to Break Free.
Yeah.
Is that the title of it?
Yeah.
Okay. I know that's what he says in the song. I didn't know if it was the title, but I really like that song.
I prefer Fat Bottom Girls.
Fat
Yeah.
Bottom Girls, that's
Bicycles. I mean, it just, you can't miss
good.
with them.
Somebody to Love is a good one too.
And he is, in my book, the best rock vocalist of all time. That's just mine. But anyway, my number one is Black Sabbath.
Sweet.
No, it's actually Sabbath Bloody Sabbath is the song. It's not really my favorite album by them per se, but it's my favorite song by them. Like the groove in it, of course the darkness, the heaviness.
Yeah.
The first song off of Paranoid almost made it, which was it Black Sabbath?
The first song off of Paranoid
Yeah,
is War Pigs.
War Pigs. No, what is this that stands before?
That's
me?
Black
That's
Sabbath.
Black Sabbath. Yeah, that song. That was going to be my number one, but I slightly like Sabbath Bloody Sabbath a little bit better. I think it's just a little bit more, I don't know, more catchy. Honestly, it's just a tad bit more catchy.
And, just to piggyback off what you're saying about Sabbath, it, of course, is known for being the first heavy metal band, or at least creating that heavy sound.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't know, or, not listening to their discography deep, like once you get to like Sabotage and
Technical Ecstasy.
and stuff like that. Like they experimented a lot with like fucking harmonicas and all kinds of shit on their album, and I think as a full band they went about as far as they possibly could go within a 10-year span.
Yeah.
As far as experimenting with everything. So while they are the godfathers of heavy metal, they were, in my opinion, just a well-rounded hard rock band in general.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that too. I mean, if it wasn't for Tony losing his fingers and getting that darker, edgier sound, who knows who would have came up with metal.
Yeah, and bands that came out later, like Bad Company and stuff like that, totally, took that vibe from them.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only other band you could really consider a metal band at that time that probably would have taken over that mantle, had that not happened to Tony, was probably Deep Purple.
Yeah.
Because they were out
Yeah.
right around the same time. They released their album not long after Sabbath did, I believe. So it probably would have been Deep Purple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Machine Head is a great album.
Oh,
by Deep
absolutely.
Purple, you know.
What's your number uno?
My number one is Megadeth. My all-time favorite band. The greatest thing to ever happen to music to me was Metallica kicking Dave out of the band and him starting Megadeth. Tornado of Souls is my favorite song.
It's a goodie.
Hands
Nice.
down, to me, in my opinion, as far as thrash metal, it is the magnum opus of thrash metal. From beginning to end, vocals, bass, and it is my absolute favorite guitar solo of all time. Absolute favorite guitar solo. Marty just wrote a masterpiece of a solo in that song, and it's actually one solo that a lot of guys who really like get into the shredding aspect of guitar, it's one solo that every guy tries to learn. You know, everybody always tries to learn, you know, Eruption by Van Halen.
Yeah.
You know, you do the tapping and everything, but it's just a song I could play over and over and over and over again, never ever get sick of, and it's also on my favorite Megadeth album. And I don't think it'll ever change. I think that'll always be probably my favorite song of all time from my all-time favorite band.
See, I struggle with Megadeth because I go back and forth with my favorite Megadeth album between, Rust in Peace and Peace Sells. But honestly, I think Dystopia is their masterpiece. I mean, just my point of view, because I think that album, beginning to end, like writing, heaviness, like his vocals, lyrics, I don't know. It just, to me, is their best album.
I agree that the album is fantastic. On my personal list, it's my fourth favorite, but my only criticism of that album is, of all of their albums, to me, I think it's probably the one that's the most studio produced. It sounds the most produced to me.
Right.
It doesn't have that rawness to it. Now, their new album kind of has a little bit of the same feel, but is a little thrashier, I think, their new album, you know, and they have a lot of guest spots, like Ice-T is on one of the songs on Night Stalkers, but no, still a great album, and they actually won a Grammy Award for that. I mean, Grammys don't mean anything anymore, but
Yeah.
they actually did win a Grammy Award for Dystopia, metal album, hard rock metal album of the year.
Yeah, rightfully so.
Yeah, I dig Megadeth. My favorite album is Countdown to Extinction.
Yeah.
That's my second favorite.
So I think we all can agree with Megadeth being awesome.
Amazing.
My number one, I don't think it's any surprise, it's Dio. To me, the greatest voice in all of music, for my personal taste, for what I want to hear.
Better than Halford?
Yeah, I think Dio has, when I think of classic, you know, I'm a metal guy first and foremost, so when I think of classic heavy metal, there's a lot of great voices, you know. David Coverdale from Whitesnake is great. Of course, I mentioned Led Zeppelin at number 2, but I mean, Dio just had that larger than life vocal style, and I think it sets him apart from most vocals. Like, something is familiar with his singing, but yet totally unique at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like when you hear it, it sounds familiar, but nobody can duplicate it.
Right.
And not only that, but he's always had just some of the best backing band musicians to cover his shit. And, I was thinking, like, what's going to be my favorite Dio song? So many. Rainbow in the Dark, Holy Diver, blah, 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 blah. Lock Up the Wolves.
Yeah.
But after thinking about it, my favorite Dio song is Rock and Roll Children.
That's
and
a
that
goodie.
is from the Sacred Heart album that came out in '85. So, let's see here. I think third studio album. It was a third or fourth. I can't remember Dream Evil. Hold on. It was Holy Diver. It was The Last in Line. I believe it was Dream Evil, and then Sacred Heart. Or it's Sacred Heart and then Dream Evil. I can't remember, but either way, came out in the goddamn 80s. And, that's my number one.
Would you say, if you were to do it like a Mount Rushmore of metal vocalists, would you say that it's Dio, Halford, Bruce Dickinson, and Ozzy Osbourne? Would that sound about right?
Metal?
Metal vocalist. That's who I would put on mine.
To correct you real quick, it's Holy Diver, Last in Line, and Sacred Heart.
Okay. So
Then Dream
Sacred,
Evil.
yeah.
But you want to know the crazy part about this, and we'll talk about the Rushmore thing in a minute, is that Holy Diver was in 83, Last in Line was 84, Sacred Heart was in fucking 85. So that's back-to-back-to-back years of fucking bangers.
Yeah.
And then Dream Evil was only 2 years from Sacred Heart.
87.
87. And
then-
Lock Up the Wolves was 90. That was the first one of the 90s. Even though it still sounds just as good as fucking Holy Diver. That's how fucking good he is.
Oh, yeah. But getting back to your Rushmore, good God, there's not a whole lot of better picks than what you just said. I mean, you said Dio, you said Ozzy, you said Bruce Dickinson, and you said Rob Halford. When I think of like metal vocalist,
You said metal, right?
Yeah.
The metal?
Yeah.
like when I think of classic metal vocalists, the ones that built the genre for what we hear today with all the core music, they're the godfathers of that. Even if some of the guys today that do the hardcore style, the metalcore, the deathcore, and all that, they don't sound like Dio and Rob Halford and all them. You know they're still an influence.
Yeah, I would say if there was anybody knocking on the door to those four, I mean, you kind of have to put James Hetfield right there because because of the impact that Metallica
he's recognizable.
had. Yeah, I mean,
even if you don't consider him a great singer,
Yeah.
you know when when you hear that, that's like a signature. And God, there's so many good ones that have kind of changed the game over the years. Like,
you mentioned Coverdale. Coverdale's one too.
Coverdale is, if you want it, if you're trying to get Zeppelin back together and Robert Plant didn't want anything to do with it, you could have got David Coverdale to do it. And,
or even the kid from Greta Van Fleet. Is that how you say the name?
Greta Van Fleet is a throwback to, a lot of people thought that Led Zeppelin came out with a new album.
Yeah.
No, it's these 20-year-old kids from fucking California. So
Fucking California kids.
and then you get into the 90s, man, and everybody's got such a unique voice. Your Corey Taylors and your David Draymonds and your fucking Jonathan Davis and Phil from Pantera. Everybody is reinventing something somewhere. But yeah, those, if you talk classic, those four that you mentioned are pretty
Yeah, it's kind of hard to argue with
Yeah.
those.
Well, let me ask you this. So, who would you say has a better voice? You just mentioned Corey Taylor. Would you say Corey Taylor or Chester?
Corey Taylor.
In my opinion, I prefer Corey Taylor. I don't hate Chester. I love Linkin Park, at least to a certain point.
First 2 albums only.
No, they have better. Their discography goes a little bit better. I have to disagree with you.
I mean,
Minutes After Midnight's an amazing album.
I'll say there are a couple songs from that album that are okay, but I feel like anything after their first 2 albums, every song sounds like it should be from a Transformer soundtrack.
Oddly enough, my favorite Linkin Park song is probably from a Transformer. Fucking, we're building it up.
That's from Minutes to Midnight.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that might be my favorite. I don't know.
That song has that. It has Bleed It Out. It's like 3 or 4 other hits. Like, and it was amazing.
I
album.
think if I had to choose,
Honestly,
my
they're-
favorite, the first Linkin Park album is probably my favorite.
Honestly, other than in my opinion, other than the last album that they put out, I like every album by them. I can find some songs, even Lost in the Echoes and stuff like that. But that's just me being a Linkin Park fan. But
to answer your question, it is Corey Taylor,
Yeah.
but
because Corey Taylor covers a Dio song on the tribute to Dio, along with Metallica, and I think he covers Rainbow in the Dark.
yeah, it's Rainbow in the Dark.
And the notes he hits on that, I'm sorry, Chester,
Yeah.
you're not hitting those, buddy. So,
Yeah, and
so the better question is Corey Taylor versus David Draymond. Who's the better vocalist, nu metal?
Corey Taylor.
this is where I disagree.
See, I knew I was going to get this reaction out of you.
Because
Tell me why you're wrong.
no, I'll tell you why I'm right. No, honestly, this is just I don't expect people to agree with me. I like Disturbed better than I like Slipknot. That's the reason why.
Yeah.
I've always been more of a fan of Disturbed. The knock on them is all their shit sounds the same. That's cool. I am a fan, so I can tell it all apart. So it doesn't sound the same to me.
Okay, but
Yeah.
every AC/DC song sounds the same, but I mean, they've been doing that shit for 40 years and it rocks. So.
Exactly. Like, if you get
Yeah.
Back in Black and you get Fly on the Wall, they sound the fucking same. Unless you get a little bit more early Bon Scott stuff. But the vocals is the only thing that sounds different. To a certain extent, But, yeah, I have Slipknot albums. I have Disturbed albums. I've just always liked Disturbed. It's just kind of one of those, this band or that band, and it's like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna listen to this one first, but then right after, I'm fucking listening to this one. So
Yeah, I get it.
it's just my personal, And as we do these podcasts, it'll be fun to do these types of deal, like this band or this band, this band
yeah.
or this band. Get into some debates, get into some, what we prefer. But we love it all, so that's the most important thing.
I can't wait until we do a favorite albums of the '90s list. That's gonna be so much fun.
Third Eye Blind's on it, baby. I can already tell you now.
But that's gonna be a great list. I think it's gonna
Yeah.
be all out. Some of it will be way out of left field. It's
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
be so much fun.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's crazy you say that, and I know my top 2 right offhand. So.
I do too. Like, it hit me like a fucking lightning bolt in the ass.
Yep, but save it for a rainy day.
We're going to save it for a rainy day. I think the next one, just to change up things for people, I think we're going to do our top maybe 5-10 favorite pop songs.
Poppy.
pop songs.
That sounds like a lot of fun too, because I think there's going to be some guilty pleasures on that list.
Exactly. That's going to be the fucking point of it, because you're going to throw out some. We'll keep it. We'll keep it like maybe like 80s based, and then like we'll do like we could do 80s to 90s, whatever. We'll figure it out. But we want to say thank you for listening to Cue the Music, our very first episode. I'm James.
I'm Todd.
And I'm Brandon.
And enjoy the music of life. I don't know. I want to edit that out. Fuck you.